begin by welcoming our panelists. First, we have Martha Rasnake. She is the Senior Human Resources Advisor at General Dynamics Mission Systems. Martha, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what General Dynamics Mission Systems manufactures. I think you might be muted, Martha.
I am. It always happens. Anyway, so my name is Martha Rask, and I work for General Dynamics Mission Systems. And this particular facility is located in Marion, Virginia. We are a global organization, so we have sites all across the United States and the world. We are an aerospace and defense contractor. We work with a lot of military. We work with national defense, NASA, space intelligence agencies. I've worked my entire career in HR and only recently transferred into the manufacturing side. And I have enjoyed that very much. Although Mission Systems is basically known as a communication engineering company, we do have several facilities that have manufacturing as well. So I'm happy to be here. Hope I can help answer some of your questions, and I will put my contact information in the chat, so feel free to reach out to me.
All right, thank you, Martha. Next, we have Garrett Goad, who is a safety specialist at Mohawk Industries in Hillsville. Garrett, will you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about what Mohawk manufactures?
Yes, I said my name is Garrett. I've been with Mohawk Industries about 14 and a half years. About 10 and a half of those have been in safety. Mohawk is a flooring manufacturing with carpet, hardwood, laminate, tile. And what we do here at Hillsville specifically goes for the primary backing of residential carpet.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Leah Tsar, the Chief Human Resource Officer for Real Performance Machinery, LLC, which was formerly Metalworx, Inc. Leah, please tell us a little bit about yourself and what your company manufactures.
Hi, I work for Real Performance Machinery, and we manufacture sawmill equipment. We take a piece, basically a large log, and we decide how much lumber you can get out of that log to get the most yield for the sawmill. It's called the secondary breakdown process. And we have been in Grayson County, Virginia. We were formerly Metalworx, been in Grayson County, Virginia now for about a year. And I have been the Chief Human Resource Officer there for 13 years.
Right, thank you. And our fourth panelist today is Bryant Rutledge, the Lean Manufacturing Engineer for Hapco and Concord American Flagpole in Abingdon. Bryant, please tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you manufacture at Hapco.
Okay, again, my name is Bryant Rutledge. I am the Lean Manufacturing Engineer here in Hapco. We are out of Abingdon, Virginia. Hapco primarily makes pole products. There is a division, Concord America, that she mentioned, where we make flagpole products. So with the light poles, I know it seems very simplistic, but anybody in manufacturing, you know, it's never as simple as it sounds. So we do everything you can think of, from decorative poles to poles where we're just simple signage downtown. Very simplistic poles as well, just to light up parking lots, but all with their own individual styles and their little, I guess, their little added tweaks and things along the way.
All right, thank you. So to start out with, I want to address some of the misconceptions about manufacturing right away. I think the more you know what manufacturing is like today, the more likely you are to pursue a manufacturing career. So when I talk to students and sometimes even educators and parents, I often hear the view that manufacturing is dangerous, monotonous, and not interesting or innovative. And that's really not true. That's probably an idea that we got from our parents or grandparents from when they worked in manufacturing. But that's not true of manufacturing and the careers available to us today. So when I tour manufacturing facilities, I'm always surprised by just how high-tech everything seems. In my current role, I've learned the importance of innovation to manufacturers and staying on the cutting edge of technology, because that's part of what keeps them competitive. So Bryant, I'm going to direct the first question to you. In your experience, how do you think automation and technology have impacted manufacturing and will continue to impact manufacturing in the future?
I believe that it's had a very high impact. I've served in different roles on different levels within manufacturing, from being an operator, supervisor, engineer, and I've seen the rapid development of technology. A lot of times people seem to think that the automation coming into the work environment is a way to push out employees. But what I've seen, what I've actually found out, it actually just promotes a higher caliber employee. Somebody still has to make the robots. Somebody still has to program those machines. Somebody has to be there to ensure that certain things are in place. And it becomes a simple tool just to make our world better. I've seen where we're able to use this automation to actually be more efficient. We're actually able to produce more than what we have in the past, which means that we become more profitable as companies. And of course, that just translate into longevity and more salary cap for those on board. But it also has made a lot of operations safer. I've been directly a part of projects where, for the longest, the only way to answer it was, this is just the way we do it. And with the added addition of automation, we was able to eliminate a lot of safety issues along the way. You're able to increase your quality too. That's one of the biggest things that I love about automation is it allows us to give a better product by putting in simple poke-yolks or go no goes, those types of things that it eliminates the waste. I am a lean engineer, so I think about those types of things. And automation gives us that ability to say, hey, we can check the product and make sure it's actually what it should be before we even move it downstream, because it's built into the automation. There are some things that can blindside you with automation, but I believe that you just have to know about those things so that you can go into it with the right angle. If you don't have a process that's repeatable prior to automation, you can run into difficulty. But that just becomes challenges and opportunities to us. How do I get this product where it needs to be so that the automation can work, so that we can see all those added benefit by adding that automation in there. And in the future, I see automation growing and technology just growing more and more. Um, like I said, it's gonna increase the caliber of employees, because somebody's still gonna have to build those robots. Somebody's gonna have to manage the equipment once it's on site. Somebody's gonna have to do the programming. And by having those things in the future, I think it gives us the ability to challenge ourselves to become higher caliber people as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the way you said higher caliber employee. That's a great takeaway from that. Yeah, thank you. All right, another misconception I want to address is that manufacturing is dangerous. And Garrett, I'm going to ask you this question. As a safety specialist, your job is literally to keep employees safe. So will you tell us about the focus on safety in manufacturing and what you do to maintain employee safety and employee engagement in those safety standards?
Yeah, and definitely manufacturing definitely has the potential to be dangerous, but there's lots of precautions in place. Even over the last 10 years, the steps we've made in advancements. OSHA has a lot of those rules to protect employees, and it's employers' duty, to follow those rules, implement them. Some statistics. About 400,000 injuries a year happen in manufacturing. From minor to major. So, as a safety specialist, yeah, you spend a lot of time on the floor, walking around. I look at, the OSHA regulations, rules, making sure those things are in place. But in the end, it really comes down to your people, the ones doing the jobs, making sure they have the right attitudes and the right mindset, of safety. One thing that we try to teach here is that, safety can't be a top priority because priorities change daily, right? Safety has to be a top core value. Your core values don't change quite as much. So have that in there. And, I could stand up there and I could teach classes all day long. Then they go out on the floor and if the supervisor tells them, don't worry about that, get it done, it's accomplished nothing. So you have to have it from the plant managers down to the supervisors and department managers, even down to employees, that, you never sacrifice safety for speed. And that's going to make the people be more proficient. So we focus a lot on training. First off, how to do your job well, how to do it proficiently and safely, and train them how to look for hazards. And then, what to do to protect yourself. Train a lot on getting help. There seems to be that stigma that, if I have to ask for help, that's not good. But that's showing that, asking for help is okay. We have certain jobs in our plants that, you're not allowed to do by yourself because of the dangers. And then going out, and teaching these people. So, you teach your new people, but also going back and teaching your people that have been here years. A lot of accidents happen when they get complacent. I've been doing this for 20 years. You stick your hand in that machine, it doesn't matter if you've been there 20 years or 2 months. It's going to hurt you the same. And then, a recent study from Missouri Insurance Company said that about 70% of people only think about themselves or the loved ones getting hurt at work just a few times a year. It's not something we think about daily. So we try to implement that. This should be a daily commitment to where we have our things we talk about safety daily. They hear something safety daily. They see me out on the floor, and not just me, like I said, the plant manager, supervisors, showing that, hey, yeah, we have to make our product, but we have to do it safely. And that's going to be the thing that really drives the employees to do it.
Yeah. And as a follow-up question to that, what kind of health and safety measures did your company implement during the COVID-19 pandemic?
All right. I don't know how much you guys know, but Virginia was kind of the leader in the COVID response. Virginia was the first state to get VOSH, the Virginia OSHA, involved in making some of those rules and regulations. So, we did some of the obvious things, obviously wearing masks while you're at work, wearing the gloves. Sometimes, you weren't used to wearing gloves, but wearing the gloves at certain times to reduce that transmission. But then we went a step ahead, when you pulled in, we actually had a guy that as you pulled in, he would take a temperature in your car and ask you questions. You've been around anybody? Have you been exposed? That way, before they ever come into the plant, we've got them checked. Once they're inside, we rearranged the break times. Used to, you had 20, 30 people taking a break at a time. Now we're setting them up to where you've got 8 to 10 at a time in a room, separating these spots out so you're not all together. We were actually able to rearrange some of our times. So that way, instead of everybody coming in at one time, we staggered their shifts. So that way you didn't have as many people, in the break room getting ready. Able to clean in bathrooms and break rooms, having that person, cleaning them on a regular interval, and then being able to record it so people could see, hey, here's what's getting cleaned. And then also leaving those cleaning supplies there. So, it may have got cleaned an hour ago, but I know 2 people have had their break since then. So I'm able to still clean up your machines, your powered industrial equipment. Those are things, obviously, you're not going to have one truck for every person. So having that cleaning equipment to them, that way when somebody else drove it, they could still clean up after themselves. Obviously following in the VOSH guidelines when we had a suspected or a positive case. And then, opening doors as much as possible. We did have a thing called vital oxide spraying down the plant weekly just to try to keep it as much as we can, keeping the people spread out. So a lot of measures in place that I know a lot of these on the panel have been through this year, the past year, making sure that their factories and facilities stayed safe.
Yeah, every manufacturer I've talked to, I've been so impressed with everything they've been able to do to keep their employees safe. So thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to move on to another misconception that a lot of people have, and that is that manufacturing is just a daily grind. You clock in, you stand on an assembly line all day, and then you clock out. Now, Martha, I've worked with you for a while now, and I know how amazing you are at connecting with people. And I know that connection is something you take into your job. How do you make work more than just a daily grind for your employees?
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you for that. Actually, it's part of my responsibilities with General Dynamics. I oversee 3 particular programs that they have. The first program is the Community Investment Program. With this program, we reach out to nonprofits in the areas that the facilities are located in, where we live and work, to help out the communities. We have an employee engagement program. This program is things that we can do on site. Examples would be before COVID, picnics, holiday lunches, things like that, where we're bringing everyone together. But post-COVID, we have tried to do that in a virtual world. It's a little bit more challenging to do connecting through Zoom. It seems like we're all getting quite a bit of experience in that as well these days. And I'm also in charge of the new employee orientation. So when we bring somebody on board, that initial contact that we have with them, letting them know about the company, let them know about our values, our mission, the things we want to do, why it's important to make those connections, why you want to be able to connect with your teammates. So it's all about that connection with where you work and the people you work with. I mean, let's face it, we spend most of our time at work. So it's really important that we work somewhere where we're happy. And so that's part of what I do with that. And we do other things outside of those particular programs to help with connections, such as tuition reimbursement. We also bring flu shots before all of this happened. So there's a lot of different things that we do. We partner with local organizations to help with fundraising. We do food drives for the elderly. So it's just whatever we can do to help the community and help the employees.
Yeah, I love how you said that we want to be happy at work. That's a big one. I would like to point out, as I've been listening to you all talk, Bryant right off the bat talked about how we're going to have a higher caliber of employees. And then Garrett talked about keeping employees safer. And then Martha just talked about keeping employees engaged and feeling connected. So there's really a big emphasis on making your employees feel happy at work in manufacturing. And I think that's so good for us to hear. Now, I've mentioned that many people think that manufacturing is monotonous and just an assembly line, but it's actually a really creative process where you take an idea and you bring it to life, and it's turned into a physical product that you can, see and touch. Leah, you told me a story about taking a kindergartner's drawing of a bubble wand and making a 3D version of it. Will you share that story with us?
I will.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually brought the picture. Here's the drawing that he did. Get ready to see. And then so our engineer, we went to the elementary school. This was a kindergartner. And so we came back and we did the first pass on the 3D printer. And then of course you have to tweak that. So then we had to have a usable model that we could tweak. And then we had to scale it down to something that would work. And then we ended up, well, I say it's usable. Let me get the bubbles in it, with a usable bubble wand. And the thing about that story is when you watch a child or anybody really figure out that they can make something from, concept and design, it's no different from the equipment that we make, the huge machines. You take a concept and then you tweak it, and then you end up with the finished product. And it's amazing to watch people, I guess, kind of get it, that, manufacturing is pretty cool.
Yeah. And I know you talk to students a lot, and I love that story you just told. How do you keep students of all ages, all the way up through college, excited to pursue a manufacturing career?
It's generally when you start to talk about the pay and the benefits and the things that, you can not have a ton of debt when you go into tech schools, because there's a lot of opportunities for apprentices and, colleges. Most of the time you can have, I know we have several apprentices and they didn't pay a dime for their school. it was all covered. So when you start to talk about the monetary aspect, that's when they get really interested.
Yeah. Bryant, you've been in manufacturing for 12 years now, and I know you had other career experiences before you started. Did you have any of these misconceptions that we've talked about? And, you know, Leah just told the story about the kind of idea to physical product. Have you had any of those experiences that have been exciting for you in manufacturing?
Yes. I say when I first got into manufacturing, it was a complete accident. It was by default. It was very unintentional. I had just got out of my military career and I was waiting on a job opening at the local police department in Kingsford. Well, they had me waiting so long and I wanted to get something going. So I just took the job as a temporary. I was like, I really don't want to do this. They'll just leave me stuck here. They're not going to pay me well. They're going to make me do all the, horrible jobs that nobody else wants to do. I don't even know if I'm going to make it home every day. I had all those reservations when I started. And when I got there, when I actually started working, I was on a machine where all we did was deburring. It was a very low technical job. I was just deburring carbide cutting tools. I worked for a company called Kennametal at the time. So just deburring those tools, and I was actually exposed to the drawings in the process. They come in the order package. So as I started looking through the drawings, I realized all the fine details that were included in this one little drawing on a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch square, all these intricate detail. And so I started reviewing them more and more, looking into them more and more. And I got intrigued. so I started paying more attention, and along the way, there was just the people there. They just became family. And I was having my first child at the time. And as I said, I took this job as a temporary, very unintentional at the time. And so they brought diapers and all kinds of different things. So they really just like reeled me in. And I started to feel a whole complete different way. These are just regular people. Nobody's getting hurt. People are loving their job. They're figuring out how to make it easier every day and better for each other, how to keep us all safe. The emphasis on safety, it just blew my mind because you hear all the horror stories, but the safety aspect of it is very, very detailed when it comes to manufacturing. Nobody looks at that or takes it with ease. It's very intentional. And so just continue to go forth with those things in mind. I started learning more and more about the drawings and the technical pieces of the process. And it actually pushed me into saying, you know what, maybe this is something I can do long term. And that was the start of me taking on lead positions prior to being a supervisor. I just got intrigued by it because it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. And I think the biggest part is just getting the people around you. You can see all the panelists, and I'm sure they all agree. Once you get into this environment, they become your family, and you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Good answer. All right. And Martha, you've only been in manufacturing a few years. I know you also had a pretty diverse career before you started in manufacturing. Has it been different than what you expected?
It has, but part of that is when I graduated high school, I went to work at a sewing factory and worked there for several years and just wasn't happy with it. So, fast forward with time, and I worked in the education setting for one of the sister schools to Mountain Empire, actually, for several years. When this position came open, it sounded intriguing to me. It was something I definitely wanted to try. And so I applied and was fortunate enough to get the job. So it was a total switch into manufacturing. And from the sewing factory days and what I had heard growing up and those sort of things, I found it to be very different. The technology is incredible. The things we do with technology is unbelievable. The people who work in manufacturing are wonderful. There is such a connection with the people, and they get such pride out of that finished product. You actually get to see what you make. So it is wonderful to have that and to see that and be a part of that. The other thing I would add is that the pay and benefits was much better than what I was anticipating as well. This particular facility is a unionized facility, so we do have a union on board, but they go through contract negotiations, and so they know what their salary and benefits are going to be 5 years out. That's how long the contract is for. So there's never any question about that. So the security that you get with that, I think, is just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's great to know. Very good to know. All right, now that we've covered some of the misconceptions, we're going to switch gears. But before we do that, I just want to remind everyone to leave questions for us in the chat box. Now that you kind of know our panelists, you can direct your question to a specific person or just leave a general question and I'll direct it for you. So please go ahead and put those questions in there so I can prepare for them. So now that we've all shared with you why we think manufacturing is a great career to have, it's innovative, it's safe, it's interesting. Some of our panelists mentioned how everyone is like family there, which I often hear, and I love to hear that again. So let's talk about getting started in that career. The first thing we all want to know about a job is the pay and benefits. And Leah, you've already kind of mentioned this. So will you go ahead and talk to us about the pay and benefits in manufacturing and how that compares to other industries?
Yes, and actually I have to agree with the family-oriented situation in manufacturing. It is one of the great benefits. It may not be monetarily tangible, but quality of life and actually liking the people that you do spend most of your time with, it is a benefit and it is like family. Now we have people who make $12 an hour. We have people that make $50 an hour. So the span based on your position is pretty wide. And we've got, salaried individuals that make 200,000, and that's not per year. I mean, that's not our owner. So it's actually people that are out there, working in the field, and the opportunity is huge. We have 401k, we have medical, dental, vision, we have holiday pay, flex time, flexible schedules, vacation, you name it. We pretty much have an employee purchase, reimbursement for college.
So lots of benefits, and you do have the reimbursement for college. That's something I get asked sometimes.
Yes, we do.
Very cool. So one benefit of manufacturing that I think we sometimes don't think about is that room for improvement. Leah mentioned the pay span that is at her company. And so, that's entry level all the way up to a higher level position. And one of the benefits is that room for advancement. So if you can get your foot in the door in an entry level position, you can work your way up. And Garrett, I know you have done that. So will you talk to us about the opportunities you've had for advancement, including any additional training?
Yeah. When I got hired at Mohawk, I just got hired as an entry level position, out on the floor, just working. And as that, I moved up gradually to still out working on the floor, but in a little higher role. As they got in, before I came to Mohawk, I did work at a fast food restaurant, and I was the manager there. So that kind of, put me in a place when they came about having a safety person. At the time, it was a safety trainer. I did most of the training on the classes and a little bit with the OSHA regulations. So I was able to move up there. And then from there, I did that for a couple of years. Then they added even more on it, doing more of the OSHA regulations to where I moved up to a safety specialist, knowing a lot of the OSHA regulations, being able to go out and look and certain things, and still training the people. If I wanted to, whereas my company, the home base is in Georgia, but there's still several factories in Virginia. You got some regional safety managers. I could move up and still stay, in Virginia. If I wanted to move up even higher, I could. There's definitely places to go if you want to do, or even if I wanted to, sidestep out of safety and move up to a department manager, where I spent time on the floor and spent so much time, even though I don't do the hands-on position of the jobs, you still know quite a bit about the jobs. Those positions are always there. So, my facility that I know for sure, there's always steps to start from the entry level, move your way up. Several of our managers in our facility, some of our department managers did start out on the floor, and several of our supervisors have started up. So there's always room to improve yourself to as high as you want to go a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And Bryant, you've also done pretty much the same thing Garrett here has. You've continuously progressed in your roles during your 12-year manufacturing career. I believe you actually started out as a CNC operator. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but will you tell us about the opportunities you've had in additional training?
Yes. So originally when I started out, I was a temporary. Um, but like I said, I started to get intrigued by the process. And so what could have been seen as a problem at the time actually became an opportunity. We were all required to work a certain amount of overtime. And if as a temporary, if you didn't work that overtime, you was released. So it exposed itself originally to me as a problem, but it actually became one of the biggest opportunities because it gave me a chance to work in other areas. And it just that in the intrigue, my intrigue, the way I was so intrigued by the process and initially, it just continued to escalate and build. And so I started learning more and more of the different machines. And inadvertently, there was an operator out this one time, and the machine that I had just started um, asking about, it was a CNC machine, and nobody knew how to get the error cleared. And so I spoke up and say, hey, I believe this is how you do it based on what he showed me. So of course they were very timid. I'm a temporary, no schooling, trying to tell them how to clear out a CNC machine, but they followed the steps and it actually worked. So 2 weeks later, they asked if I would come over to that department and serve as a backup. And that's when I got my first full-time position in manufacturing as a CNC operator, with no schooling at this point at all. Of course, me being myself, I always try to market myself. And that's what I would suggest to anybody. You are a brand, market your brand. And so once I started making those connections that this is something I want to do, I went the next step. I decided I wanted to go to school, which the company, by the way, did a reimbursement program, which a lot of manufacturing companies do. And it's an awesome program. If you can take advantage of it, I tell you, take advantage of it. It's nothing like being able to get paid to learn so that you can get paid more later. I mean, it's just an awesome opportunity. And so I took them up on that opportunity, went to school, and then a position came open for just a floor leader. So I just started off as a group leader. During that time, I realized, okay, if I want to continue to move, there's things that I have to continue to market about myself. So I started to look at my approach on everything. Everything I looked at, I thought about, okay, it's not just a problem, it's an opportunity. Just like when I first got into this, there's always an opportunity. And so as I started to change my mental focus and look at everything as an opportunity, it exposed me to bigger and bigger opportunities, which led to me being a supervisor. I did that for about 2 years, and then I became a department supervisor. So pretty much I led the other supervisors on our daily directions. From there, I still wasn't done, so I figured I'd go back to school. So I went to school and I attained my engineering degree. One of the funny things, while I was actually working towards my engineering, my bachelor's in industrial technology at ETSU, while I was working towards it, within the last year, I talked with my manager, and there was an opportunity for an engineer, a lead engineer. It doesn't happen all the time, but because throughout the previous part of my career, I've always shown the right type of attitude. I was always willing to be flexible. I never stopped learning. I was able to actually become an engineer before I even had my degree. And so stepping in that role, and I just continued with those same methods. And I think that's the biggest thing I like to tell anybody is just look at yourself. You are your own brand. How do you make yourself marketable? And that means you have to want something for yourself. You got to push something for yourself. And that's exactly what I did. And I continue to learn. Even here in my position now, I'm always continuing to learn something. I just recently completed my PMP certification. And everything's not going to be done on the company's time. This is something I did outside of the company because I can see the value of it. I can see the value I bring to Hapco. And so therefore, there's going to be value that Hapco is going to give to me, for my accomplishments. So it's just about how you look at the situation. You know, problems aren't always problems. Most of the time, if you look at it just right, it can be one of the greatest opportunities.
Yeah, all right. That was some good, just general advice. Thank you for that. So obviously, manufacturing is a great way to continually advance at work, just like we just heard. And of course, with advancement comes that higher salary, which is what we're looking for. But you first have to get your foot in the door. So Leah, when you're interviewing somebody outside of the technical skills, which these students are currently getting, what do you look for when hiring? We still have Leah with us? Nope.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you are. Okay.
I do these presentations generally at the middle school where we talk about soft skills. We actually in Dorchester County down here run a program called You've Got Soft Skills, and it really does teach. It's the simple things. Can you look somebody in the eye? Can you shake their hand? Can you, you know, talk intelligently with them? Do you not look at your cell phone? You know, and what he just said, Bryant, about the brand, what kind of brand, it's important for you when you come into a facility to interview that you know about the company, that you've researched, that you've done your part to kind of understand what job you're applying for. Because you'd be surprised, sometimes people don't do that. But it's a very good idea to learn what you're applying for, what the company does, how they operate, to make sure that you're a good fit.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Martha, is there anything else that you look for you'd like to add to that, or any other advice you'd like to give about getting started?
Well, soft skills are very important. They're so important that I call them essential skills, because they are the skills that you need to be successful in whatever you choose to do in life. To be a student, to work in manufacturing or any other industry. So there's a lot of those soft skills that I look for when we're interviewing. And how those come out is just through conversation. So communication is very critical to be successful. You also need to show up for work. Attendance is critical. If you miss your job, that could slow up an entire line and production for an area. So attendance is really critical. Being accountable for your actions and taking responsibility for anything that might happen. Those are important. You want to be able to work on a team. That team environment is, I know I keep saying things are critical, but it is so important to be able to do teamwork and work with your coworkers. We also, some of our positions have top secret security clearance. So some of those positions, we have to look at some different things. With those, they're a little bit more strict, but we have a lot of positions that don't have that clearance. I just like for people to know that that is available to them. People coming out of the military looking for positions that have that security clearance, that's a real big plus that we look for as well. Then I would just say, read over that announcement. Make sure, like Leah had said, that you do your research, but also know about the qualifications, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that's required to do that job. What responsibilities and duties are you going to have? And it's just as important for you to interview the company as the company to interview you. So go in with questions, make sure that you have an opportunity to ask those, and that you feel comfortable with the decision that hopefully you'll get to make. That's pretty much what I would add to that, Mandy.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Leah, I'm going to jump back to you real quick. We have students on here from Mountain Empire Community College, and I think we have some joining us from UVA Wise. So Leah, in your opinion, do you feel like you could hire people with both business degrees and more of the technical degrees? Do you think there's room for all of that in manufacturing?
Oh yeah, there's so many different positions. Like with our company, we have, it wouldn't matter, administrative, material handling, assembly, production, it wouldn't matter. We have plenty of opportunities, engineers.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
We have jobs posted.
Yes, you do. You have jobs posted. That's right. All right. So the panelists have done a great job at giving us some general information, and I would like to move to questions in the chat box. Right now, I'm not seeing any. Beth, if I'm wrong, you can jump in here and tell me. But I don't think I see any. Would somebody like to type anything in there really quickly?
I don't see any questions either.
Okay. Well, we've got just a few minutes left. So please type in a question if you have one, and I'm going to keep an eye on it right now and see if anything pops up. Until we do get a question, would any of our panelists like to give those of us today any final tidbits of wisdom about a manufacturing career, or just general advice? Bryant gave us some great general advice about self-branding. Does anybody else want to add anything? Anybody?
I'll say one thing. So with manufacturing, I know we talked about all the different things that the misconceptions, but it can seem intimidating. But if you just go into with the right attitude and you prepare yourself, like my story is, I didn't even intend to go that route. It can be very beneficial, and I like to say, you know, those companies I work for actually help me provide for my family. I've been able to, you know, to change the dynamics of my family by being involved in manufacturing on different levels. So as intimidating as it may seem, I mean, this is a good step. If we're here talking, it already shows that you're serious about what you're doing. Just be consistent in that, you know, and keep moving forward.
Yeah, good advice. Neva from UVA Wise has asked, what would you recommend job applicants wear to interviews? Leah and Martha, you're probably the two on here who are doing interviews. Do you want to chime in with anything? Martha, will you start us off?
Sure. It really depends on the position that you're applying for. Some of the positions, it's okay to wear jeans and maybe a colored shirt. For the more professional, higher level positions, I would expect the person to dress for that position. So it really just depends. But for the production floor and things, blue jeans and a nice shirt is fine.
Okay. Leah, do you have anything to add for that?
No, I agree with that 100%. Just make sure you're on time for your interview.
Yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Do either of you want to add anything else to interview suggestions or tips? Hopefully the people watching today are going to start applying for the jobs we have listed. So Martha, any application tips, any interview tips?
Just try to address as much of the information as you can. You might not think that you have experience in something. Maybe you are fresh out of college and applying for these jobs, but the things that you've done in college matters. It helps. So bring that forward and address as many of those situations as you can. You probably have more experience than you even think you have.
Yeah, that's true. Leah, what about you? Anything else?
Yeah, a lot of times the job market kind of dictates, you know, how desperate we are for a candidate, probably, I would say. But, you know, in today's market, if you just come in and you're willing to work hard, and again, it goes back to kind of what Bryant said with the know what your brand is going to be. But if you're willing to come in and work hard and you want to learn and have a positive attitude, which is key. He said he got his promotions from having a positive attitude. And it really is the truth that your attitude can take you further than your skills sometimes.
Yeah, I hear that a lot from HR managers. I like that. Yeah. All right. Garrett, do you have any last words of wisdom for anyone to pursue a manufacturing career?
Not off the top of my head, just if you do go into manufacturing, watch where you put your fingers in your thing, and that way you get to go home with all 10 fingers and all 10 toes at the end of the day.
Probably the best advice we've gotten today, so thank you for that. All right. If we don't have any more questions, I don't see any more that's popped up. Someone said thank you for the encouraging words, so we definitely appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the panel and got some good information. I would like to thank Beth and Mountain Empire Community College for hosting us and for dealing with the technology and all the promotion of this event. I've worked with Beth many times on these events, and Beth, I always appreciate everything you do to make this successful. I would also like to thank our panelists for taking the time out of their very busy schedules to participate in this. Your knowledge and insight is always very much appreciated, and I'm very thankful we had all 4 of you on here today. So if you have any further questions, if you would like to look for available career opportunities or learn more about my organization, the Southwest Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing, please visit our website, swvam.org. These companies you've talked with or heard from today, they do have job listings on our website that you can find. So if you're interested in any of these companies, please do check that out. And please contact the Southwest Virginia Alliance for Manufacturing if we can help you with anything. We're always here to answer questions and help you out. So thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks.